and welcome to the latest episode of Insurance COVID Cast. And today we have another Newsmaker special, looking at the launch of Key by Brit Insurance earlier this month, a standalone business and the first fully digital and algorithmically driven Lloyd syndicate. To do this, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by James Birch, Head of Innovation at Brit, who led the team that incubated this new startup. Hello, James.
Hi there, John. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Good.
It's warm and sunny outside, but I'm sure we can go out later and play. James, can I ask you, firstly, can you explain the thinking behind Key and what marks it out as differently?
Yeah, sure. So, Key is a partnership between Brit, Google, and University College London. This has been something we've been working on as a collective partnership for around 9 months, and really kind of, I suppose, the initial hypothesis was around the expense pressure that the Lloyd's of London market has been under for so long, and really kind of looking at ourselves as Brit and as an insurer and saying, rather than trying to, try and gain a point here or there on commission or kind of other drivers within the market, really actually let's look at ourselves and let's really kind of take our own destiny into our hands. And the way that we thought that we could go about doing that is by looking at expense as a driver for performance of our business. So we kind of spent some time looking at different ways that we could look to reduce expense, and I suppose that's kind of where the initial concept for Key came around, because we looked at other financial markets, particularly the capital markets, where actually they've leveraged technology and data science into the markets to drive kind of lower expense base and ultimately improved performance. So that's kind of, I suppose, how the initial concept of Key came around. And then really what I suppose we've ended up getting to and building is what we think at least is the first fully digital and algorithmic driven syndicate within the Lloyd's of London market. And when you say fully digital, really what we mean is something that's accessible anytime, anywhere. It's 24/7. It's always on. You always know that you're going to get access to follow capacity, right? So really kind of taking the market on a digital transformation journey and playing into the broader Future at Lloyd's initiative.
Because you said there, James, you work with the University College London on this proprietary algorithm for the business. How long did that take to develop? And in as simple terms as possible, how does it work?
Yeah, sure. So there's a little bit of secret sauce in there, so I've got to be wary I say too much. But so we approached University College London and their computer engineering and financial markets team probably around 7 months ago now. Reason we approached them is they are kind of the leading academic experts when it comes to building algorithms for the financial markets. They've worked with the full range of hedge funds out there, US, UK, and just broadly global, helping them and supporting them to take an algorithmic approach to trading. So we kind of approached them to say, look, we want to build a algorithmic approach to underwriting, which is not something that's really been done in the specialty insurance market before. So we've been working with them intensely, really, for I suppose the last 6 months to the fundamental level, build the relevant algorithms per class of business. And there are technically around, I think we've got around 36 or 7 algorithms now that we've built with them, but then also the governance and the frameworks that sit on top of that. Building algorithms is an ever evolving process. So the first 6 months is really kind of the foundational layer, so they can work, I suppose. And now kind of before launch in the next 6 months is really taking them to the next level and saying that, can we add extra data sets? Can we add additional variables into the machine learning modules to really kind of improve the underwriting performance that they're bringing to the business?
Can I ask, given we are in lockdown at the moment, is the timing of Key, given, as you said, it's cloud enabled and accessible anywhere at any time, fortunate, or did you bring it forward to tap into, how many are now probably thinking about the future and how they're going to work in the future?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, right? So Short answer is no, we didn't. We planned always to launch, when we did. The things we were waiting on before kind of coming public around what we've been doing is we've been going through the regulatory process with Lloyd of London. So getting kind of approval in principle from from the regulator or from the corporation to go live in 21. So once we achieved that, and then we achieved kind of the capital commitments from our investors, then we were kind of like, okay, well now it's kind of time to go live. And the unfortunate situation of COVID aside, yes, I do think it's quite an interesting time for us to launch, and I think it just really kind of illustrates the need for a digital approach in the Lloyd's of London market, right? Lloyd's of London has been so traditional for so long, and really, I suppose, in my mind, it's the last financial market to really be affected by digital. And COVID is finally being kind of the last thing to push it into a new digital era. And I think Key will hopefully be the first mover of that for the market, but I'm sure many others will come. And we very much welcome those. From our perspectives, we imagine our peer group will launch similar kind of platforms, over the next year, 2 years, which is great because really it just validates, our business model and also the requirement for kind of a new approach to doing follow capacity in the market.
Can I ask, James, what has been the response in the broking sector to the launch of Key?
Yeah, so highly positive would be my obvious answer, but also the truth. So we spent the last kind of week and a half doing a roadshow to kind of our strategic partners and strategic broking houses. And really, I think from a broker perspective, it's almost a no-brainer, right? Because Key is so efficient, and the way that we've designed and built Key with the Google team is that it's been, we've used the classic kind of design thinking process and really tried to ensure that it's broker led in terms of design and function. So we've tried to take out all the friction and all the pain points from the user journey for the broker, so that what previously could have taken 2 weeks to get follow capacity now takes in a matter of clicks or minutes. What that means for the broker is that it allows them to improve their client service, kind of point one, because they can spend more time focusing on negotiating lead terms and price, and less time worrying about follow capacity. They can also reduce their operational expenses because they're not having to waste a lot of time again going around the market trying to find follow capacity. And ultimately, it starts to solve some of the market inefficiencies, right? And the way that we've tried to approach this, saying like, look, we want to work with the brokers, we want to work with the reinsurers, we want to work with the capital providers. Let's all work together to reduce the market expense and solve some of the market inefficiencies, improve the operational processes, streamline some of the data flows, so that everyone's a winner. We're not trying to take margin from other players. We're trying to work with them so that together as a collective we can all win and make Lloyd's of London more competitive going forward.
And can I ask, James, why did you decide to go with Google Cloud as a technology partner? What do they bring to the party to help differentiate Key?
Yeah, so Google have, first off, Google have been a great partner from day one. We approached a number of different, I suppose, world-class or significant technology vendors at the very start, because really when we set out on the journey, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of said to ourselves, look, Brit are experts when it comes to insurance and underwriting. How we're not domain experts when it comes to either building technology solutions or building algorithms for underwriting. So we said, okay, let's go speak to Google and some other providers. And ultimately, Google were the ones willing to invest time and resource and really put everything into the partnership. Yes, we're using Google Cloud infrastructure, but it's a lot more than that. We've been working very closely with a number of teams within Google, whether it be machine learning, artificial intelligence, products, cloud engineering, cloud infrastructure, to really create the Key technology stack. And what we've produced is something that is completely standalone, and I think something that will be quite a market mover when we actually do go live in around 6 months. So what Google have brought to the party is, yes, they brought high quality and high class cloud and I suppose compute and storage, but more than that, they've helped build custom products for the Lloyd's of London market, and this is and this really is the first step of the journey of this partnership with Google, and key almost is the first incubation of that partnership, looking at the follow market within Lloyd's, and then we're continuing to work with them, not only to continue to develop Key as a product and as a technology platform, but also starting to look at some of Brit's problems and the leadership problems in the market, to whether that be around data extraction, and I suppose starting to look at how we can build kind of a 360 data view of a particular uninsured asset.
Because you've already mentioned that Key is a follow-only syndicate. What does that mean, and how much capacity you expect to launch with, and could its risk appetite change over time?
Yeah, so 3 questions there, so I'll try and answer. First question in terms of what was the first question again? Sorry, that was completely
follow only.
Follow only, yeah, sure. So Lloyd's of London is a weird and wonderful world, and I suppose the dummy answer is typically you have lead insurers and you have follow insurers. The lead insurer is where the broker goes to initially, and they negotiate the price and the terms of the cover for that particular risk or asset. Then effectively the follow market or the follow insurers then either agree or disagree to that price and those terms. So the leader might say, okay, I'll take 30-40% of this particular risk or liability or exposure, and then the followers will say, okay, well, we'll take 10% of that deal, almost, is the way that I kind of think of it. And conceptually, it works across, there's a number of different financial markets that use it as a concept, but the lead follow mechanism is something which is really defined within Lloyd's of London. It isn't kind of a formal model, so it's not regulated that some are leaders and some are followers, but typically we see that the market dynamically works that way. So Brit sees itself very much as a leader, negotiating on complex risks, where you need like a lot of human input and intellect into the process, whereas actually follow capacity, technically can be quite simple, because you're really just having, you're really just understanding, is that risk within risk appetite or not? So then to go on to your third question about risk appetite, the way that we're approaching follow capacity and the way that we're approaching really the specialist insurance market is we're starting to say, okay, well, we want to take more of a portfolio management approach. So the way that we've set the business up is more like an asset manager rather than a traditional Lloyd's of London syndicate. So we don't actually have technically we don't have an underwriting team. We have kind of a portfolio management team, which is a blend of underwriters, actuaries, and data scientists, that look and feel more like a fund manager almost. So really, rather than being reactive in the way that we kind of act today, we start to be more proactive in the way that we look at risk and look at portfolio of risk, to then say, okay, dependent on rate change or other macroeconomic trends, whether it be COVID or otherwise, okay, we really want to let's rejig the portfolio and let's try to get exposure to more of this type of risk rather than this type of risk. So it allows us to be a lot more agile and a lot more, I think, flexible in the way that we're balancing our portfolio, rather than doing it on more of an annual basis than it kind of happens at the moment. In theory, we can do it almost on a risk by risk basis. We probably won't do that on day one because it's a little bit kind of black box algorithm territory, but we're actively going to be managing that portfolio with the portfolio management team, and always assessing whether we want to kind of explore different risks or not. And then the second question was on
capacity,
yeah. So confidential at the moment, unfortunately. Reason for that is it's not been approved by Lloyd's, by the regulator, so it's still in discussion. The ambitions for the syndicate, I can kind of speak to that. So the ambitions for the syndicate is that by year 4, year 5, it will be a top 10 syndicate in terms of premiums. So, we're trying to get to scale pretty quick. We think we should be able to get there pretty quick, but Lloyd's obviously manages business plans for syndicates. So, the year one has yet to be approved in terms of the actual definitive number. But I think kind of the important thing to take away is that it's not going to be a small startup syndicate. Even from year one, it will be a sizable syndicate within the market and have a sizable presence.
You've already, I suppose, touched on this, James, but your CEO, Matthew Wilson, talked about Key being a trailblazer in helping create, speech marks, a whole new and fully digital segment which operates seamlessly alongside the traditional marketplace. Do you see other Key style businesses coming on stream over the next 12, 24 months? And would you be disappointed if you were left to blaze a trail on your own, in that foreseeable future?
It's a hard question. Would we like to create a monopoly in the market? No, I suppose is going to be my answer, but maybe it should be yes. Yeah, so the way that I kind of look at Key and what we're trying to do is almost, I mentioned the capital markets reference earlier, but I think of the capital markets in like the late 90s when the hedge funds or the quant-based hedge funds came into the markets, really taking a very much pure mathematical and data science approach to what effectively is a variable or a set of data or a financial instrument. And really, when you look at the specialist insurance market, it's actually quite similar. Yeah, everything's called different and we have different jargon, but you've got different types of financial instruments, risk, and really all you're trying to do is just attach risk and capital together in the most effective and efficient way. And then I suppose actively manage your exposure to that risk. So what we're trying to do, I think, will be quite similar to what happened in the with the hedge funds, where capital markets was, I forget the market size numbers, but it was X trillion, and then the market size tripled when the hedge funds came in. So it's not as if the hedge funds wiped the floor with kind of old school equity trading and the trading floors, whether it be New York Stock Exchange or otherwise, but they created a whole new market. And really, that's what I think will happen here is that digital specialist insurance or kind of digital trading will create a whole new market, and there will always be a place for the manual face-to-face lead business, and that will be 40 billion or whatever the Lloyd's market is right now. But I think the kind of follow highly efficient almost capital trading of risk could in theory create a whole new market that's the same size if not bigger in the long term, particularly if it's running at such a more efficient business model. You can quite quickly see capital providers and investors wanting to get into that market, and suddenly if Lloyd's of London manages to, as a marketplace, reduce its combined ratio by a few points, then it starts to be able to compete with local business, and theoretically then actually doubles its whole market size. So really what we want is actually our peers to do the same as us. Obviously, we want to have a first mover advantage on that, which I think we've kind of got. We've been working on this for 9 months, so I'm sure other people are doing other stuff as well. But we welcome the challenge, and really we think that there will be others doing this because we don't think that the market can keep on going in the way it is, particularly when it comes to follow capacity.
So you've mentioned about the digital segment being the same size as the traditional one. Do you ever see a situation where it outgrows it, and in any time frame? I mean, that's again a very difficult question to put you on the spot there, but
well, I very much personal view, but I really do, and I really hope it does. And the reason that I think that it will is again just looking at the capital markets and what kind of quant hedge funds, ETF funds, all that kind of like fully digital way of trading business has just completely exploded the capital markets. And actually, you kind of if you're a investor looking to diversify your portfolio away from the capital markets, particularly in the trying times at the moment, suddenly insurance risk actually becomes something that's quite attractive, particularly if it's very efficient way of applying your capital. So if Key is the first mover of a new business model, working with the Lloyd's of London Corporation and all the great work that's going on with Future at Lloyd's to kind of make a more seamless marketplace, and you suddenly have a a central e-trading platform that will be PPL in the future or next year as part of the future Lloyd's work. Suddenly you see a world where you've got Key or other competitors all plugging into a central trading platform, then it goes straight through processing out to the reinsurers, and on the front end there's API integrations into the brokers, and suddenly you've taken 10 points out of the expense, and then actually there's no what's stopping the market growth, because you're even so much more efficient than local markets trying to place other the other parts of the risk. So I think it's a really attractive proposition to both kind of client or the end insured as well as the investors, but it's getting everything in the middle of the value chain right, and I think Key is trying to do that and trying to take a first mover. But we will be in the only way that we'll get to that size is if we're enabled by our kind of other market participants, whether it's Lloyd's of London, the brokers, or the insurers, all coming along on the journey together. If everyone comes along together and we all work together, we'll get there. If we don't, then we might not.
Finally, James, can you give us a clearer idea about when Key might launch in 2021? And I have to ask, what was the thinking behind the name?
Yeah, good question. So the plan is we will launch the 1st of January 21. Rationale for that is it's kind of key period for renewals within the Lloyd's of London market. The platform will be live then. We'll likely be ready before that point, but we kind of don't want to hold ourselves to that for obvious reasons. So that 1st of January will be the launch date officially. In terms of the name, so yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. I was reading like the Monzo blog on how they got to their name the other day, and some of the they had some quite famous psychologists and stuff provide quotes for how they got to it. And I was trying to think of a smart way of how we could do the same. But the reality is that the word key is simple. So we span around with millions of different names through a month-long process, but really how we ended up falling on Key is that Key can actually mean anything 21. So Japanese, it means something like the meaning, it's the central meaning of life, and Chinese, it means like the force of nature, and other language, it means other things, right? So in theory, you can choose whatever whatever meaning you want that sits behind the name, but really what it all comes down to is, as a user, you can use Key how you want. It's super simple, it's memorable, and and our slogan is risk simplified, so it kind of plays into that. And yeah, I think that's kind of it, really. I don't want to lie and make up a fancy reason. I should have gone with the Japanese example. Maybe that was better, actually.
Okay, well, James, thanks very much for your time. I say it was a breath of fresh air when your press release dropped in my inbox, because it is kind of quite full of COVID-19 stuff at the moment. So I always wanted to kind of follow up this, and thanks for giving us your time. So thank you very much, James.
No worries, that's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I mean, we're really excited to work with everyone in the market. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me personally or otherwise, feel free to drop me a line. And thanks for the time, John. Thanks for inviting us on.
Okay, well, this is the latest in a series, obviously, of Insurance COVID Cast. Remember, if you want to subscribe or register to Post Insurance Age, please use the tab in the bar at the top. But until the next Insurance COVID Cast, it's goodbye for me, and stay safe, everybody. Cheerio.
Cheers. Bye.